$10 billion through creating jobs, cutting regs, cutting taxes, and just doing what government needs to do, getting out of the way. So, in 2018, he was then elected to the United States Senate. He is fighting every single day on Capitol Hill for every single one of us, whether we're a Floridian or not. We've got a great video to tee him up, and then I'll introduce him. Hit the video.
Let's talk about where we are and where we go from here. The Democrats, it looks like they're going to do everything they can to steal this election.
The American public is pretty smart. They want voter ID. They only want American citizens to vote. If you're a racist for asking for an ID, then every airline's a racist, every car loan company's a racist, every bank's a racist. No, we're not racist. We want a free and fair election.
President Biden is requiring Americans to get vaccinated.
Joe Biden is telling people, if you're concerned about your health, I don't care. If you decide that you don't want to get a vaccine, you get fired, and that's okay for Joe Biden?
House Democrats passed the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill.
We've got to start doing things responsibly. Less than half of this bill has anything to do with roads, bridges, airports, and seaports. Let's look at what's happened with inflation. Gas prices are up $1 in a year. Food prices are up. What's it caused by? Government spending that's not paid for.
The amount of money the Democrats are spending is staggering.
Right. No one wants to be honest with the American public. They're raising your taxes. The middle class is going to pay for this.
Republican Senator Rick Scott.
Rick Scott. I've been up here 2 years, Brett. I am working my tail off. I'm fed up.
Good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope the weather's better here than where you're from. How many people are from Florida? So, what are the rest of you doing? Look at the weather we have. We have lower taxes, less regulation. We have freedom in our state, and we've got to do this all across this country. So, as Jessica said, I've been blessed. Now, I was born to a single mom. I was born in Illinois. We lived in public housing, and my mom had a plan which I didn't appreciate as a youngster. It took me a long time to appreciate it. She said, "You're going to be an Eagle Scout. You're going to make straight A's. You're going to go get a job. You're never going to get fired, and you're going to go to church all the time." I didn't appreciate all that as a kid. I always thought as a kid my mom was the meanest mom around. She had a yardstick and she would use it constantly. I was ultimately the second of 5. My older brother was perfect. I wasn't. But as I got older, thank God for people like my mom. She told me, look, we don't have any money. But it doesn't matter. You live in this country. There is absolutely no limitation on what you can do. You can be anything you want to be because you're born and you're a citizen of the United States of America. So let's just take the last year and a half or so. Think about what they've done to our country. We have people that have shut down our schools, shut down our businesses, told us we can't travel. Now they're mandating we have to take a vaccine, whether we had COVID, whether we don't feel comfortable with it or not, telling us we have to wear a mask, which I'm not against any of these things. I had COVID, I've had the vaccine, but why? Where did the government get off telling us what to do?
Yeah.
So people forget how important it is each election. So on April 9th, 2010, I got into the race in governor. Nobody in the state basically knew me at the time.
That's true.
Everybody had endorsed my opponent. Everybody in the entire country had endorsed my opponent. A wonderful person, been in Congress 22 years, 4 years as city attorney general. And everybody said I couldn't win. He had every endorsement. And he talked about these great endorsements he had. And I went on a plan how I was going to turn around the state. People forget where the state was. When I got elected, there was almost 500,000 more Republicans than Democrats. Or Democrats than Republicans. We had lost 832,000 jobs in 4 years. Home prices had dropped in half. 1.1 million homes in foreclosure. We were going into default on our school debt. Right? We were in deep trouble. Right? Second highest unemployment in the country. I'm a business guy. I believe that you can fix things. And if you don't believe that, think about this. How many businesses do we have today that start out as the biggest company in their industry? Never, right? You got to start somewhere, and you just got to chip away every day. And if you chip away every day, it takes you about 10 years, you're an overnight success. Everybody says, well, that was easy. So we balanced the budget, and here's what this state had done. For 20 years, Florida had increased its state debt every year by $1 billion. Good years and bad years, kept pushing the debt up. Sounds like our federal government. They increased our regulation. They increased taxes. The 4 years before I got elected, they increased taxes significantly in this state because, well, gosh, revenues are down. We got to take people's money. We can't cut government. That was the attitude. So we balanced the budget, and I never knew anything about government, and I found out, you cannot borrow more money because in Florida you can only borrow money one of two ways. Either the legislature passes it and you sign it as the governor, or it comes up through a cabinet process, which I didn't even know there was a cabinet. By the way, they told me that we're going to have a cabinet meeting the next day, and I said, well, what do we do? Because I never even heard of it. And they said, well, here's our agenda, we're going to borrow some money. I said, I ran against that. So I said, take it off. They said, okay. So I figured out I get to decide what's on the agenda. Guess what? For the next 8 years, do you think it was ever on there that we raised debt? No. Zero. So if you do that and you're just committed to doing the right thing, guess what happens? In 8 years, you can cut taxes and fees 100 times. You can cut $10 billion of taxes. Actually, you can pay off debt. I paid off 1/3 of the state debt. 1/3 of the state debt. We didn't do it by cutting everything. We grew the heck out of our economy. We added by the way, if you asked me the weather when I ran, anybody that was here in 2010, I only talked about one thing. You asked me the weather, hey, I have a 7-step plan for 700 jobs over 7 years. You say, well, what about that? I've got 7-step plan for 700 jobs over 7 years. I knew I won the race when I went into a convenience store right before the general election. And everybody there said, you're that jobs guy, right? That was the biggest issue in the state. We've got to have the same attitude at the federal level. Now, I've been up in D.C. for 2 years and 9 months. Job creation, paying down debt, cutting regulation, cutting taxes. We don't have those conversations at all. And by the way, it's easy, there's 100 senators, but you don't have to get to know all of them. I only have to get to know about 50. Because the Democrats don't talk to me. Schumer will not say a word to me. Durbin, Hirano, any of you from those states, they will not even say my name, get on the elevator with me or anything. I proposed something the other day that said, I am not going to let Joe Biden require a vaccine mandate for food stamps, Medicare, Social Security, and public housing. I did 4 different ones. The guy that offices next to me from Ohio, the Democrat, got up and he had to block my bill on public housing. He says, I'm Mr. Public Housing. I don't even know where this guy's from. He says, he knows nothing about public housing. So he went on and on and on, and I said, at the end, I said, you can't call people a liar or anything in the Senate floor. You can say, it's not true, that was not reality. But I said, I actually lived in public housing. I know you probably learned more than I did doing something different, but I actually lived there for quite a few years, and you learn a lot that way. So this place is completely dysfunctional. So if we have to get a majority back. I'm the chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, right? So here's what we have to do. We have to raise $1 gazillion. We have to get good people to run. We have to talk about the issues. And if we do, we're going to have a hell of a 22. Now, in the meantime, we got to block everything we can in the process because there's nothing good happening. The way the Senate works, 37, 38 weeks a year, we go up there on Mondays. We have a vote at 5:30. It's always a bad vote. There's not a nominee that you can say, man, I'm excited about this nominee that I can confirm them. There's none. So we do nominees, and then every so often we have a bill. They're all bad. So let's think about it. We've had election bills every few months. So here's what Schumer wants to do. You don't have to have ID. It's racist, by the way, right? It's racist if you ask somebody for your ID. So those airlines that ask you for your ID, gosh, must be racist. When you go to a bank, they must be racist. Guess what? People don't believe we're racist if we ask for ID. They don't believe we're racist if we expect their signatures match if you do mail-in balloting. They don't believe you're racist if you say, I don't believe we ought to have same-day registration because we ought to know who's voting in our state. So I fight about this election security, and here's something we get to do on a positive basis. As the chair of the National Republican Central Committee, I get to put money up to make sure that we can defend the laws that have been passed to improve election security in Florida and Georgia and Iowa and Texas and any other state that does it. We will be there and we will fight to defend those new laws. And we're doing it all the time. Then I do national polls and I show people. African Americans believe we ought to have voter ID. Hispanics believe we ought to have a voter ID. It's good for everybody. We want 100% participation and 0% fraud. Not 10% fraud, 5% fraud, not 20 votes that are fraud, 0 votes that are fraud. Yes! That's what it should be. How many of you saw the interview I did with Breonna Keeler on Monday on CNN? Anybody see that? If you're watching CNN, I'd have a whole lot to worry about you. So you love this. So it was a great interview. If you have a chance to look at it, it was so much fun because every sentence was Trump. And so she'd say, should Republicans want Trump's endorsement? I said, absolutely. But you got to run on issues or you're not going to win. And I said, if you're a Democrat, you probably want Barack Obama's and Hillary's. Stop talking about Democrats. We're only talking about Trump. She was so mad that I said anything about Democrats. Then she said, well, this election security stuff. And I said, yeah, Chuck Schumer goes to the floor every week and tries to pass some crazy bill they have to vote on. Stop talking about Democrats. We're talking about Republicans here. Then she said, this critical race theory, I mean, it's completely untrue. And I said, it was so much fun. I said, Breonna, I hope every Democrat talks about it every day. Keep it up. Keep it up every day. Because parents are not dumb. They're smart. They know what their kids are learning. So then she said, well, it's not true. It's not true. You got to say it's not true. I said, Breonna, let me, and I put my, I have to wear reading glasses. I put reading glasses on. I said, let me just read you some things. Go to the Virginia Department of Education website right now. I did it yesterday, by the way. And I said, you can go to this portion that talks about critical race theory, then this that talks about critical race theory. I had a bunch of them. I just did to them. She's cut off. Let's go to another subject then. We have got to get out there and talk about these issues. We cannot back off. We cannot act like, oh, we got to be careful. Let's just be Democrat light. We got to go out there and say, we absolutely believe what we're doing. We believe parents should choose education for their kids. It's our kids. It's not their kids. They want to indoctrinate our kids. They have this whole plan to indoctrinate our kids so they win all the elections. They have election bills that say only Democrats can win from now on. That's it. That's basically their bill. And then on schools, they want to say only we get to tell your kids what to believe in. And by the way, we're going to tell your kids that if you're one race, you're oppressor, and if you're another race, you're oppressed. How many people bring their kids up in this country to say, oh, you don't have any chance? you know, we're not doing very well, so it's going to be really bad for you. I'm sorry that you were born in this family. None of us do that. We tell our kids, it's your fault. It's a tough place out there. Get out there and bust your butt. You can be anything. That's what we tell our kids. And we don't need our schools to tell them something else.
Yeah.
So let me give you an example how your Senate works. So did you know we withdrew from Afghanistan? Right? Pretty bad withdrawal, right? So 124,000 people were evacuated. Guess how they decided who was going to be evacuated? Who was in the airport? That's how they decided. Just get everybody out of the airport, get as many people you can on those planes. 124,000 people. Now, have you read that 79,000 of those people came to America? Not much, though. Here's what happened. I'm on Homeland Security. We've been asking for a briefing. They won't give us a briefing. And they would only possibly give us a briefing if it was classified. So I'm going to give you a bunch of classified information. 79,000 people came to this country and barely any vetting. They put them on our military bases. 5,000 of those people were American citizens. 2,000 people had special visas. The rest, who knows? Those people can walk off our bases any moment they want. Any moment. There's no limitation. So we're in this briefing, and they're telling us all this stuff. They had every three-letter agency there's the federal government telling this stuff, all classified. And I said, is there anything that you're telling us that is classified? No. You know why we had it classified? They don't want the media to know, and they don't want you to know. To this day, we have not had a hearing to talk about any of that information. But it's not classified at all. And by the way, here's the best part. When I was governor, we're dealing with this all around the country right now. When I was governor, if you remember back a few years, we had a lot of Syrian refugees that were getting out of Syria and then coming to Europe and to here, right? And remember how they had the attack in France? The Syrian refugees did the attack. So at that point, I made a big to-do about it, and I said, look, I didn't know who's coming to the state. And so a bunch of us governors did it, and we got the White House to have a phone call with us. And so here's what you learned when Obama was president. What you learned was you wanted to be, they would pick who they wanted to ask questions. I mean, they cut you off phone calls if they didn't like your question, all sorts of stuff. And so, I said, I want to know who's coming to my state. And they said, you have no right to know. I said, I actually did get elected. I got this little certificate. It was my second term. I said, I got elected twice even. So they said, you have no right to know who's coming to your state, no vetting, nobody in your state has a right to know. Now, in this classified briefing 2 weeks ago, the lady that is refugee resettlement, I said, I want to know everybody that came into Florida. Absolutely, we'll tell you right now. It's been 2 weeks. They're not going to tell us anything. Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, he comes because Homeland Security is up on my committee. We talk about about the border. He says, it's completely secure. I said, Secretary Mayorkas, you're it. You're the only person in the entire United States that believes that. I said, nobody believes anything you're saying. So the way it works up there is we have all these hearings, and you don't have to worry because it's not reality. It's not real. It's like made up TV. The guy from the FAA came in the other day. Now these jobs are not supposed to be political jobs. I said, tell me about the work stoppage at the Jacksonville airport, which I know about, that the air traffic controllers complained about the vaccine mandate. Oh, that didn't happen. I said, what about when Southwest shut down all those flights? That was weather. How about when American Airlines had the work stoppage? Oh, that didn't happen. That was wind. It didn't happen to United. It happened to American that day, but only the American flights had those problems. These people come in and testify, and it's just pure BS. So how about General Milley? So I'm on Armed Services, so he comes in, and I said, I've been asking him, I've been up there 2 years and 9 months, I've been asking Milley, I'd like to have a better understanding why we have the troops where we have them. Not saying like they shouldn't be there, but why do we have them where we have them? So 2 years and 9 months. Takes a while to do those things, I guess. But he came in about a month ago. And he'd done all those interviews with all the books, people writing books about the last president. Now, we had just had the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, right? So you'd think maybe they should have spent more time on that, okay? All right? But I said, General Milley, like, how is it in your job description to give interviews to Bob Woodward about the last president? Like, yeah, right? He said, well, it's part of my job is really talk to the media. I said, so are you talking about the new president? Of course not. And then I said, my understanding in the book, you've questioned the fitness of the last president. I said, what's your criteria? And I said, how about the new guy? So, he didn't want to answer. So what I could go, when I was governor of Florida, when I walked in, I could tell you a story about each agency, because you've got to let people that want to run things. If you're going to be a governor, mayor, or the president, you've got to run things, right? Like you can feel good about your Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, right? Because he's gotten on a plane, he's gone out to Long Beach, and he solved the problem, right? This is a joke. We elect these people that do absolutely nothing. Nothing but coming and lie to us. So what you're doing matters, right? And let me make sure you understand. It matters to win the election and to make sure you prove you won the election. You've got to do both. So in my elections, they tried games. The Democrats did all three elections. So at the last election, I won by 57,000 votes election night. I have 2 daughters, and I've been married since we were 19. I have 2 daughters. I had at that point 6 grandsons. I now have a granddaughter. But my 7-year-old grandson, he was so excited. He said, "Grandpa, am I going to be on national television?" I said, "August, whatever happens tonight, you're going to be on national television." I said, so he was so excited he was going to be on national television. He was going to go be able to tell all his friends he was on national television and stuff like that. And so we announced we won the election by 57,000 votes. The next day, Mark Elias, the Democrat lawyer, comes down here, flies down. He says, "I don't care what the votes are, we're going to win." That's what he said. That's why what you do matters. We had already hired 1,000 lawyers, and we had 7,000 volunteers to go through 2 recounts. They found 95,000 ballots illegally after next election night and tried to count all of them.
Yep.
So what you do matters. So I told him, I'm in this recount. It took about 3 weeks in the recount, and thank God we'd already hired the lawyers. Thank God we had 7,000 volunteers that were willing to work for 3 weeks, basically watching all the counting the ballots. But I went to I talked to my grandson a week later, and he said, "August," he said, "Grandpa, what's this recount thing?" He said, "I told all my friends you won." I said, "Me too." So what you do every day matters. I believe in this country. I want every kid, I want my grandkids, your kids to have the same shot at the dream I had. I want everybody to have a mom that is tough as nails. It says, well, if you want to accomplish something, it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to get a good education. It's your responsibility to work hard. It's your responsibility. So what we have to do is we have to vet the people that are running, and then hold people accountable. I tell people exactly what I was going to do. That's why when I go on CNN, I'm very comfortable. They try to say, they were so good at their their information. They said, Senator, why did you vote for the Trump tax cuts in 2017? I said, I didn't. I wasn't there. Well, you were for them, right? I said, you better believe it. I would have done more. I said, I cut taxes 100 times. They didn't cut taxes 100 times. We should do more of it. Wait a minute, you're supposed to be defensive here. This is not working out for us. But what you do matters. If you look at 22, it is our opportunity. The Biden agenda is an absolute disaster. Everything about it is bad. There's nothing good happening. We have good candidates. I want Joe Biden to campaign for everybody. Terry McAuliffe, Stacey Abrams, all of them. They're our best servants. So we can win with your hard work. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thanks for caring so much about this country. Have a great day. Bye-bye.